so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about a few sponsors that not only help to make it possible to produce this show 5 days a week, but that I'm also genuinely passionate about promoting, especially since they're helping to fund all the cool projects we have in the works, such as the Positive Head app, the docuseries that I'm intending to begin shooting within the next year, and whatever else we dream up over here at Positive Headquarters to help spread consciousness across the planet. Now, if you're short on time or just super excited for today's topic and want to dive right in and skip these ads, feel free to fast forward about
4 minutes
to get right into today's show. That being said, I strongly encourage you to listen because the reason I'm passionate about my sponsors is because they've made a huge impact in my own life, which is why I've aligned with these organizations. And I firmly believe they can do the same for you too. The first longtime stellar supporter of the show that I want to mention is Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online with over 8,000 video titles. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. The second sponsor I'm extremely passionate about promoting is Purium. It's no mystery that bringing your mind, body, and spirit into balance is necessary if a person truly intends to manifest the greatest and greatest version of themselves. And as of recording this, it's been about 4 months since I started taking the Purium Core 4 superfood products every day. And I can honestly and sincerely say my mind, body, and spirit have never felt more in alignment. If you've been looking for a way to easily get superfoods into your system every day with a simple plan that can help you reestablish a healthier foundation and relationship with food, I cannot recommend for you to start with the Purium 40-Day Ultimate Nutrition Plan, which includes a 10-day metabolic reset and cleanse enough. I spent personally months researching Purium before I jumped in, and now myself and over 150 other positive heads have started with the 40-Day Ultimate Nutrition Plan, and many of us have continued taking the Core 4 products on an ongoing basis daily ever since. I personally intend to take them for the rest of my life because they played a huge role transforming my vibrational state. If you decide to do it, it'll cost you just over $7 a day for the first 40 days and only about $5 a day after. But if you do it the way that I recommend you to do it, the smartest and most beneficial way, it won't cost you anything. I recommend you to just look at where you can reallocate money you are already spending on food each day. Essentially, you're just going to swap out the unhealthiest stuff you're in the habit of purchasing in exchange for Purium superfoods. And this way, it costs you nothing to participate in the transformation and cleanse. And it creates exponential benefit because now you've replaced something that lowers your vibration with something that is going to make you feel super high in the healthiest kind of way. Just take a few minutes, see where you can cut out $5 to $7 a day and commit to doing it. It's that simple. Also, for support, we'll be doing a big group transformation with other positive heads and soul family once each month for support. So I recommend, going right now, ordering your 40-day Ultimate Nutrition Plan bundle so that you have it when the next group transformation starts. Procrastination is not your friend. Order it now. You can thank me later, because I can assure you, you will not be sorry you've decided to send a message to the universe that you're ready to step up your vibrational game and reclaim your health sovereignty. Just head over to ishoppurium.com. That's spelled ISHOPPURIUM.com. Be sure to use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for either $50 off or a 25% discount, whichever is greater. And also, if you want to learn more details about the Purium products, why I'm so passionate about promoting them beforehand, you can go check out several videos I shot discussing these things in greater detail. You can also hear my interview with the very inspiring founder, David Sandoval. Much, much more over at positivehead.com/transformation. All right, all you positive heads, on this week's Powwow episode, I'm very excited to have Dr. Reed Tuckson here with me on the show. Reed is an expert on aging and health and is here with us today to speak as actually the spokesperson for Ilchi Lee's new book, I've Decided to Live to 120 Years, The Ancient Secret of Longevity, or The Ancient Secret to Longevity, Vitality, and Life Transformation. Hello there, Reed. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Great to be with you, my friend. Great to be with you and your all.
Yeah, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Actually, if anyone who's been listening for a long time, before I started this podcast a little over 3 years ago, I wrote. I'm 95% done with a book that I co-wrote with a dear friend, and then I decided to sort of shelf it and focus on this show, and thought I would revisit it later. And the name of the book is The Fountain of You: How Science and Spirituality are merging to birth us into the age of timelessness. So I was originally going to call it 40 is the new 20. So it's sitting here on my shelf or on my computer, and haven't ever released it. So when I first was exposed to this book, I was like, absolutely, please, Reed, come on and let's talk about this. So super, super excited to dig in. And, what I'd like to do is start with my very predictable starting question. And that is this. You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You have 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
I think what I would say to her, particularly in today's hyper-polarized climate where we are so at each other's throats, we're so reverted to our sense of tribalism and negativism and political warfare, I would say to her that my passion now is that I am recognizing very much the premise of what you had in your book idea. There is, I believe, now a revolution merging throughout the land. There's a feeling in the air now that says we can do much, much more to awaken and realize our divine potential, the best and highest sense of ourselves, that there's something in us that more and more and more people are realizing, a sense of our humanity, a sense of our compassion, a sense of tenderness, a sense of kindness that is emerging. And it is emerging simultaneous with new understandings of the universe, of the way in which we happen to become here, this place that we call home, this setting that our home is in the larger sense. There's something moving through the land that is so exciting. And even though for the moment, people are filled with despair and anxiety about some of the mean-spiritedness in our society, my passion is to move beyond the negative and really focus on being a small part of that movement for the positive. And I believe my passion is that the more we can allow each other to have the recognition and the acknowledgement. If I turn to that person in the elevator, and I would start the most thing I would say on the first floor of our ascent, as it were, is that first floor is thank you for caring. Thank you for reaching across whatever divide we may have in our normal demographic characteristics in society. Thank you for caring about me and why and what I might be passionate about, because that's the beginning. It's a sign of respecting the dignity and the worth of the other person and being frankly interested in the other person on good terms, on positive terms, on non-judgmental terms. And then our next floor in the ascent would then allow us, for me to talk about, this sense of why I'm excited about this movement towards more humanity and compassion that are being provoked by the inhumanity and the lack of compassion that represents most of what we get every day in the society. There's a rebound effect. And I'm trying to be one of those people that captures that rebound and moves that into with others, and we start to build a whole new movement. And I think that's an inevitable consequence of where we are. So my passion really is about connecting on those levels. And then finally, I would say by the time we get to the last floors of our ascent would be to provide meaningful and useful information that allows each one of us to begin to unlock our own individual human potential, our own individual sense of kindness, and then be able to unlock that further when we begin to understand that I am no different than you. In fact, I am you. You are me. We are all connected. And ultimately, when I get to the last floor, my passion is very simple. We are one.
Well, I got to say that was a slow moving elevator, or she was standing on the 10th floor waiting for you. Very inspired to expound on all that, because that is super, super inspirational. So we're going to give you as many floors as you need, because that's good stuff right there. If you could, the other thing I like to do when I'm jumping into these discussions is just get a little background on, and in this case, it's unique because obviously you have so much wisdom and insight to offer. And you're also sort of, as I mentioned, the spokesperson for this other man's book, and Ilchi Lee. And so maybe in this case, you can give us a little background into, your story, his story, and as a foundation to speak from.
I am trained classically as an American physician. I'm a general internist whose interest in health is very broad. My interest in health began with first being the commissioner of public health for the nation's capital. So I'm a public health official. I've been and concerned about the macro level of health. Not for individuals, but for a society. And I enjoyed that. And then my road led me to being responsible for the medicine agenda for the March of Dimes and fighting for the healthiness of America's babies and children. And then I translated that into my next opportunity was to become president of an academic medical center in South Central Los Angeles. And so being on the front lines of one of the most challenging, Watts, California, and having a medical school there that is concerned with the health of underserved people and training professionals for that struggle. And then, so I was, in addition to being president of an academic medical center in South Central Los Angeles, I was for many years the senior physician at United Health Group, one of the largest health companies in America. But what's really been exciting for me is combining this very traditional and rich experience with traditional clinical medicine. I've been augmenting it most of my life as a personal seeker, someone who has been interested in the spirituality side of my life and how we combine together the sense of healthfulness and spirituality. That led me to things like a significant amount of energy and attention on meditation, on prayerfulness, also Tai Chi. I find enormous benefit both physically and spiritually through the practice of Tai Chi. And that led me ultimately to be involved with the people at an organization called Body and Brain Yoga, which was founded by a man named Ilchi Lee, a Korean man who clearly had great insight and knowledge about how to bring together the body as a very much a part of the process of prayer and spirituality. And that's how I then started to really get more involved in efforts like that are being talked about in his book. I've decided to live 120 years.
Wow. Yeah, Tai Chi is something that I have not participated in, but I feel very drawn to, and it's been sort of calling my name. So to hear that is one more indicator that maybe it's something that I should be exploring.
Well, I think so. And the reason that I find it to be terrific, again, is in my life, at least, you asked about what makes us passionate. What I am certainly passionate about in my own life is connecting together the health experience and the spiritual experience. That the
Absolutely.
way in which I am able to use my body as a temple of prayer, as a vessel of prayer, as I can use my body to feel the sense of energy that is throughout the whole universe, to be able to make my body, be able to respond and be involved in the process of connectivity to all that is around me. And the thing I like about the Tai Chi, of course, is that you use all of your muscles, all of your joints, you're stretching, you're doing things that are aerobic, that require strength, that require flexibility, that all
sort of
those
like
things.
yoga.
Yeah, it's very much like that, but approaching it maybe not from the point of view of what I would do in a health club, but doing it what I would do more in a meditative environment, a spiritual environment.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I'm getting all of these health benefits at the same time. So it's just a matter of which door you decide to go in, and the Tai Chi helps me to go through the door of prayer, meditation, and spirituality, as opposed to the gymnasium.
Right. I like that. I like that a lot. And of course, there's some yogas that have more of a spiritual slant and sort of energy. Obviously, Kundalini and things like that, or different teachers have different approaches. But yeah, it is something that you also see very much strictly health and stretching, and oftentimes in a room right next to people lifting barbells. But yeah, that's the reason. One of the reasons I've really been drawn to Tai Chi is, and the idea of it is, it seems like such a spiritual practice that is invoking energy while you're getting, a workout. And that, to me, it seems like it checks all the boxes that really appeal to me too. So, I'm
Brent, let
excited.
me just hasten to mention, by the way, though, as whether it is yoga or Tai Chi or any of these things, different people come to these disciplines with different agendas. If, quote unquote, all you come to it for is for the stretching and the healthfulness of it, and maybe the relaxation and the relief of stress, if that's, quote, all you come for, fine. As long as you're coming forward and doing something with your body to be healthy. There may be others who will come to it not only for those things, but for other things in addition, which may be getting themselves closer to divine consciousness, to God, whatever words people use. Then there may be a secondary. But if that's not what you want to do, don't be afraid to come to these healthful disciplines, because you may not be wanting the whole package, but just something that may be a little bit more of an introductory. As long as you're doing something, that's the key to deciding to live 120 years.
Yeah, and that was really, that's a great segue into what I was going to ask. Next is, okay, let's talk a little bit, maybe you can give a brief background on the author, Ilchi Lee, and then also, we can segue into, as this book, I've decided to live to 120 years, and then it goes into, secrets to longevity, vitality, life transformation. So if you could go there, we'd love to hear what you got.
I found Ilchi Lee to be a very inspirational person, a very wise man. He's from Korea, and he had translated a lifetime of interest in the martial arts into what happened for him was a spiritual epiphany. He went to a mountain and literally spent 30 days almost, sitting alone in a very dangerous environment by himself, and really got deeply into himself and discovered who he was, the real him, the him inside of the physical body. He got very close with that, and that led him to a lifetime of sharing his knowledge with others. He began in a park with one person who had some physical ailments and challenges, and he started to work with one person in a park And over time, as he was doing this in the public, others started to gravitate. And now he's built a worldwide movement with brain and body yoga centers all over the world that are doing this work. So he's a fascinating person. I have benefited from him, again, because of the people who have been trained by him, who have helped me to learn many of the techniques and the strategies that enable me to bring together my physical health, my spirituality into one package. And so very fascinating person. And his book that he's written, I Decided to Live 120 Years, is one of his efforts to try to give people practical, usable information that allows them to take action on behalf of their own health and spiritual development. And he's extremely practical in all of his approaches, trying to find ways of engaging all of us, regardless of our level of physical or spiritual sophistication, tries to find ways in which all of us can catch a seat on the train going forward.
Yeah, and one of the things that really jumped out at me, when looking into the book, and one of the things that jumped out was the idea that it's imperative that people, especially as you're getting older, find a purpose for the second half of their lives, and why it's important to continue to try new things. And this is something I know with my own mother, for example, who is, semi-retired at this point, and it's something that comes up for me all the time is, okay, Mom, you need to really find something to grab a hold of that gives you purpose. Because if you don't have a purpose, then you're not inspired, and if you're not inspired, you're probably not going to be thriving on any level. And that's unless you just want to go. If you want to live to 120 years, let's find a purpose. So I'd love to hear his thoughts and how he breaks that down in the book.
First of all, it's always so much fun when I know I, as a parent, learn from my children. And it is just so terrific that you have that relationship with your mom. But the premise of your question is spot on. When you decide to live 120 years, you are making a conscious choice that says, I want to realize that I've got more life ahead of me, that I'm looking to the future. That when, as you say, when people start to get a little older, they start thinking about, well, I'm going to retire. I'm going to just go off into a corner somewhere. I'm not going to be engaged anymore. And people can start to become slovenly, depressed, wondering what's the meaning of it all anyway. And that, by the way, happens when we're 60 or 50 or sometimes 40. What deciding to live to be 120 is saying, I am making a conscious choice to be very engaged in my future, and that I intend to have a future, whether that future is 3 years from now, 1 year, 30 seconds from now, or 60 years from now. Whatever that is, I am committing to my future, and I'm going to decide to live every second of my life from this point forward to the best of my ability, to live it in a way that gives me the chance for maximally developing my own individual human potential, my own set of who I am in the world. So this is a profound decision to decide with courage to look to the future. And then once you do that, you begin to put things in perspective. You begin to sort of say, all right, all of those things in which I felt I was suboptimal in my earlier life, the baggage that I've been carrying, I'm not deciding anymore to keep that baggage with me and just fade off into the sunset. No, today's the day for me. I'm deciding, choice, I commit, I'm going to have a different kind of life, and I'm going to build myself and prepare myself for the future. So if I'm not in shape today, terrific. I will decide today's the day to start doing the things necessary to give me a chance to live to be 120. Whether I make it or not, who cares? What you really care about is that because I'm doing the things necessary to live a longer, healthier life, every day I will reap the benefit. And that's really the beauty, I think, in the concept here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's just making that just making that decision energetically. I mean, Ilchi has written a book here. I've decided to live 120 years. You can see it in bold. Like, what are you telling, the universe? What are you telling your higher self, source, God, whatever you want to call it? You're making an energetic announcement. And then the journey becomes, okay, now what do I do? What's my end of the bargain, to sort of facilitate this choice that I'm making. And for me, that what a wonderful path. What a wonderful opportunity we have now for the first time ever, really, for people to take complete. There's so much information out there. There's so much awareness to take complete control of their destiny in this way. All right. Well, now seems like a good moment to take a quick minute to tell those of you who aren't familiar a bit about our sponsor, Gaia. I've been a big fan of Gaia for many years now, which is why they're the only content provider I've ever reached out to in regards to potentially supporting this podcast. So needless to say, I'm very excited they're now supporting the show. Gaia truly is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web. They have an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. Just to give you an example, on the show Missing Links, the incredible researcher Greg Braden explores all the biggest questions concerning who we are, where we come from, where we're going, by connecting the missing links between science and spirituality to complete our understanding of humanity's history and to better understand the interconnectedness of all things. Awesome, right? And that's just one example. As you guys constantly hear me say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to go deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. I actually saw a talk a few weeks ago. The founder of Purium, David Sandoval, who I've hitched my wagon to is, when it comes to health and wellness. And he has this company Purium that I'm involved with, and the company actually sponsors the show. And I absolutely just love the products, and using superfoods to heal the planet is sort of the intention of the whole organization. But I saw him giving a talk, and he's so inspiring. And he's probably, I'm going to guess he's in his upper 50s, 60, something like that. And he's like, I intend to live past 120. He's like, and he started giving, he was making this announcement in such a vibrant way. And, he then, of course, went into some of the health things and science that's coming out, and something, along the lines. And I wish I'd recorded it, because he was talking about how they can look at an 80-year-old and see, in their DNA or something where it could have double the length. So, if you were optimizing, 160 is there's some sort of an indicator there. And I forget the science behind it. He's like, so even if you get to 80% of that, you're talking 140. And so it's really just a fascinating time as people are stepping forward, like Ilchi, like David Sandoval, who are stepping forward and saying, hold on, we can redefine this. And I think it all starts with what you were just touching on, which is making that energetic choice is the first step in the journey, right?
Exactly right. And I'm glad, you bring, we do have so much better understanding from a science of how to live our lives well. What you were describing, were the length of the telomeres that are inside of our DNA. And you can start to understand better about how those things and their relationship to the aging process, and they're indicators of our overall, healthiness from an aging point of view. But what I think is also key to what you're saying is this opportunity to also advance our sense of ourselves as spiritual beings. That Absolutely. When you make a decision to live 120 years, you're making a decision about your healthfulness, but you're also saying something to yourself about, why am I living in the first place? Why am I here? What is my purpose for being on this planet? And how do I start to connect that sense of connectivity with the creator, our sense of connectivity with the world around us, the universe around us? We are in this enormously exciting time of science where we are learning so much about of everything that happened at the level of the Big Bang, all the way through to advances in quantum physics that tell us about what's going on inside of our atoms and molecules in our body and in everything in the created world. We have so many discoveries where we are beginning to see the handiwork of the Creator. And that's exciting information that that inspires us, that makes us, that animates us to think about how beautiful this thing called life is, and how much I then want to be a part of that as vigorously as I can, no matter what my physical health may be able to maximize where I am at this moment and every moment so that I can participate in this excitement called life, this participation in the universe to the greatest extent possible. And that's really where the excitement and the joy is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is something we talk a lot about on the show, is understanding the ultimate nature of reality. And of course, you get into, people have different opinions and theories and ideas about who we are, where we are. And I share mine very, very openly on the show. It's a big part of it. And, and what that perspective is for me, Reed, is, I believe we're eternal beings that have always been and always will be. I didn't, when I was born, that's just when my favorite thing to post on friends' Facebook feeds when it's their birthday is happy 3D incarnation anniversary. It's like we're eternal beings that have always been and always will be. And so sometimes I think people get older and they think, oh, it's too late for me. I'm 65 and, I've done all I'm going to do. And from my perspective, that's actually incorrect. It's like, no, actually, I believe if you're still here in 3D, in the physical, there's a reason, because there's still opportunity for growth. And if there's still opportunity for growth, you have a unique opportunity for growth here in 3D that we don't necessarily have beyond the veil, right? In other dimensions of reality, if you will. So here you are, you're still here. You have the opportunity to really expedite yourself in this earth school, and whatever upgrades or lessons you learn, you take with you. So, hey, let's make the most. You've went through all the heartache of being a frustrated baby that couldn't do anything, to growing into adolescence, to adulthood. You paid the cost to get to where you're a fully developed human. Let's make the most of it, right? You're 65. Okay, why not stay another 50 years and become this, when you do cross over, you're like, wow, I really maximized my time there. And as a result, there's benefits and level ups that continue on eternally.
That is just a great perspective. And I'll just be frank with you. I'm 67 years old. Ilchi Lee is about the same age I am. And I will this day, I woke up this morning, an hour of meditation and prayer, excitement and wonderful in that. I will do an hour or more of exercise today. What we call exercise, all kind of names, but I will do Tai Chi for a long period. I will do very kind of special meditation walking that I do that requires a significant amount of physical energy. I'll do bowing exercises today that will reinforce my energy level to pray and meditate. But also, by the way, it's terrific for my physical health. So I will be very vigorous today because I'm committing this day to grow. I will grow today beyond what I grew yesterday. I'm on this path, and it is so exciting to be on this journey, so that I wake up and my relationship to information, my relationship to nonverbal information, to spiritual information, my relationship to physical activity for my body, all of those will come together for me today. And I will be much more in a much better place than I was yesterday. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow and the next day. However many days I have left on this journey, every one of them to me is exciting. So I'm really on the same page you are. And as I said, I'm in the best shape of my life. I got a body fat, according to my doctor now, of 12.6%. And I'm 67. I'm very flexible. Thank goodness. And I can do the things that I want to do with my body. My body will allow me to have the energy to be involved in the world and involved in the exploration of ideas. So I'm like you, I'm excited, Brandon. And I think that each of us can have that same level of enthusiasm if we first make the choice And then secondly, if we're prepared to do the simple things that are necessary to turn that choice into action and tangible outcomes.
Wow, you're such an inspiration, Reed, and seeing you, of course, everyone's just hearing the audio here. You look like $1,000,000. You sound, your health and vigor is obviously emanates through your speech. And, you're pretty much the same age as my mother. And, I can't wait to play her this episode and say, see, Mom, this is, look at this, special walking, like Tai Chi, bowing, meditation. These are the things that someone does who's sending the message that, hey, I want to be here for the ride. And I see the benefit in continuing to be here. And so I applaud you, and I would love to dig in a little bit more into what some of those, one of the things I know in Ilchi's book, it talks about exercise can replace a dependence on prescription drugs and medical procedures. And, of course, that's another thing with my own mother. She has diabetes, and we've been really working on using some of these more naturopathic approaches and had some good results. And so I'd love to hear any, insight for people on, what is this special walk you're referring to?
Oh, it's just a form, again, of a variation of Tai Chi where you begin to control your body. It almost have to be able to demonstrate it. You can't do it with this limitation, but it's really a way of walking very slowly and lifting your leg up, balancing on one leg, and then stepping forward and feeling your body move through space gracefully, catching yourself, and then moving up again, almost like a swan. It almost looks like a swan when it's walking. And it requires, strength in your lower body, requires flexibility, it's terrific for your abdomen. And it's just, it causes exertion. But for me, what it does is I find in that kind of slow, deliberate, graceful walking, I begin to get calm mentally. And by the way, you can just walk slowly. It doesn't even have to be anything important, but just being intentional in your walk. Every single person that's listening to your podcast today, remember, you do not need to have an expensive gym membership to be healthy. You don't have to have a special uniform. You don't have to have really expensive shoes. In other words, you don't have to go somewhere to be healthy. It is so easy for your mother to decide, I'm going to go outside and I'm just going to take a nice long walk. But while I'm walking, I'm going to be intentional in my walk. I'm going to be focused inside. I'm going to be thinking about the issues that make life make sense for me, my relationship to my spirituality, whatever that may be, in whatever form it may be. I'm agnostic about whatever religion someone may be from, whatever you are, however prayer means to you, but taking that deliberate walk. Now, are you exercising? Yes, because you're walking. But do we need to call it exercise? Call it a meditation walk. Yep. It doesn't matter. But that's the thing. You can decide. One of the things that Ilchi Lee does, which I really like, is he has a wonderful little tool that says every hour, do 1 minute of exercise. So every hour for 1 minute, stand up and sit down. Stand up, sit down. Stand up, sit down. Do it for a minute. Every hour you can raise your arms up over your head and bring them across your body and stretch them out for 1 minute, moving your body. It doesn't matter what you do, but long as you move. We make this stuff so complicated. So 1 minute, folks. Every hour, my minute, I'll get down and do push-ups. I'll do 150 push-ups. That'll be my 1 minute for that.
Wow, that's a good minute. You are in good shape, my friend.
Well, I'll do sit-ups for the 1 minute, and then go back to my desk and finish doing my work. These are very simple things. I'll show you one that's very simple. Just moving your wrists. And just making sure that your arms and your wrists and those muscles, those joints in your hands, because as we get older, our wrists and our fingers and our hands get tight. For 1 minute, you can just do something as simple as that. But what you're doing is you're moving your body. And when you do that, you begin to notice that you relax your mind. The stress starts to come down, the tension. Instead of our elbows, our shoulders being up by our ears, tense and either looking at our computer screens or our iPhones or the television, we start to realize that we can do exercises where we bring our shoulders up and down, and eventually we bring them back to where they're normal. And then the blood and the energy can flow through our body unimpeded from these blockages caused by our tension and muscularity.
Yeah. When you were talking about just setting the intention to go and, with the walking thing, I thought of the Thich Nhat Hanh quote, walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. And, isn't it beautiful? I mean, it's like you think about, I'm just going to go out this afternoon and I'm going to, like you said, a meditative walk and just focus on all the things I'm grateful for conversing with Mother Earth in this way, even especially if you can take your feet, take your shoes off. I'm sure you've heard of this idea of grounding and how we, this is super healthy for us, and it passes. I believe it's like electrons are passed through the ground and help to it's actually healthy for you, like antioxidants, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly. So it's such a beautiful idea to do something as simple as to walk with intention, as if you're kissing the earth with your feet, and just everything comes back to that simple intention. I'm going to do a minute of exercise every hour. What a simple intention that anyone can do. And I think that's a lot of times you hit the nail on the head. People get very intimidated by all of what they need to do. Oh my gosh, this huge program and shift in my life. And no, little things.
I tell you, it's funny. One of the things in terms of that walking, and I love the example of that, walking as if your feet were kissing the earth. One of the things that Ilchi talks about in his book is that he reminds us that we have these energy centers in our body, in our palms. There are two very important places where we connect with the world through energy here, and also in the soles of our feet. And so that he talks about how we use that and being connected. So you receive information. We knew from physics that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We know that when we step down onto the earth, that the molecules and the atoms in our feet are pushing down against the molecules and atoms that are in the ground, and one pushing down and they're pushing up. There's a conversation going on every time we take a step. If only we took the time to listen to it, to feel it. Now, the conversation is not verbal, but there is an energy transfer conversation that's going on. And our bodies are engaged in it, but often our minds are not. And so there is a thrill. When I do my meditation walk, I am intensely aware of the conversation I'm having with the earth, the conversation that I'm having with the birds who are singing to me, the conversation I'm having with the trees as I breathe out carbon dioxide and the trees give me back oxygen. We're all in this symbiotic unity of life. And the more that we are aware of it, the more I find, at least, the reason to be optimistic, to be excited, to be engaged, to be happy, to experience just an unexplainable joy. And those things help immunize me from the dangers of opioid abuse, as you talked about. I don't want to be in an artificial environment to alter my brain chemistry. I can alter my brain chemistry just fine, thank you, by breathing. Breathing is the greatest drug I have ever known. Just to stand and breathe deeply and breathe intentionally and let your breathing guide you. That is really, really, really powerful. So, yeah, it is this attitude that Ilchi is reminding us of in his book that really helps us to then have a different mindset that makes us then not enjoy being a couch potato. Do you know, Brandon, that 25% of the American people get no more exercise than getting up and going to work? That's it.
Wow.
25%, 1 in 4. So you don't want to be that person that's just stagnant. We want to be the kind of person that is doing simple things to keep us moving.
Yeah. And, a body in motion tends to stay in motion, and a body at rest tends to stay at rest. Right. And it's really wild because we're designed to be active. We were meant to be, using our body and more physically than I think the modern environment and culture has sort of made it simpler and simpler. I mean, eventually we'll just if we're not careful, we'll be blobs that just kind of hover and float, and food is IV'd into us, and you know what I mean? And it's these bodies are so amazing, and especially as everyone today is a day older than they were yesterday, and it goes along with this idea. I always say, aging isn't optional, but getting old is. And, you're going to age, but you can age in a way that is, the quality of life is super, super high, because the alternative is, you're going to have a very low quality of life as you get up there in age, and, remaining childlike, a quote I say, and I don't quite quote the Bible often, I consider myself more spiritually minded than necessarily an organized religion, but I love, lest you become like a child, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. And so that, I believe, is a big key to this whole thing, becoming childlike, being playful. What do? They run around, they play, they're exercising. There's some great wisdom in that. That is going to keep you youthful, and keeping you youthful is where all the it's a state of mind, and it has we've all seen the 90-year-old who reminds us of a 20-year-old, and the opposite. So it's really. It's just so important to get all these elements and understand.
Well, I came across a quote not long ago, and I use it every day now, from a very wise rabbi. And he said, "I wake up every morning in radical amazement." Now,
gratitude.
That is the best way. It's just, first of all, just awe. Before you even get to the gratitude, it's just the awe, this mystery, excitement of being alive. There is nothing that you will be able to watch on television, not one TV show, not one cable news broadcast, that will give you the excitement of the awesomeness of actually remembering and realizing that we are alive. The beauty of a flower, the touch of a baby as it turns towards its mother's breast, the beauty of a burbling brook. I mean, these are things that we somehow forget. And then when we start to realize, where does this come from? How did it happen to be here? The fact that we are living in a universe that is continuing to expand at rapid rates, the mysteries of it all, the awesomeness of it, that is really what animates and should animate us. And then when we get up and we look at a flower and we go outside and we really appreciate the beauty of that flower and how that flower came to be, and remembering and realizing that there is a connection between us and that flower, that kind of gets us going. And it ought to. But then there's something else underneath what you're saying. And I think it's very important. This is something that Ilchi also talks about in the book. And that is, there are many others in our environment who also are similarly disposed. And what we have to now start to do is to participate in community life. That seniors, too often, as we get older, wind up becoming isolated. And so if you who are listening to this broadcast are in your 30s or 20s or 40s, there are people who are older that you can connect with at whatever level that senior wants to connect. But it's a part of an exchange. And for people my age, reaching back and connecting with young people and being connected. But I think this notion of getting out of this social isolation, getting out of our tribes, getting out of our predetermined boxes that we've imprisoned ourselves in. I think what Ilchi is sort of suggesting, that as we make a decision to live to be 120, let's make that decision to also share with others, to be a part. So we reinforce each other. We help each other as we go along. And let's get out of the isolation that has imprisoned so many of us.
That is such a wonderful point, and so true. It's like, as I've aged, I continue to engage with people on like I look at age as just a number. It's like, what is my connection to this individual? And, because I think in the terms that I do, as I mentioned earlier, that, my son wasn't born, 19 years ago. He incarnated in the physical dimension at that point in time. And he's actually this very old soul. So that is worthy of connection. And obviously, so you start thinking in these terms and you stop judging someone as, oh, well, they're out of my league or, my sort of social circle because they're 20 years my senior or 20 years my junior. It's like, no, actually, this person could have, from my perspective, have more experience in this earthly 3D plane than you do. And so, you start kind of throwing out the, don't judge the book by the cover sort of thing. And, for me, it has led to just so many incredible connections with people from small children to people much, much older, approaching 100 years old. And so I absolutely love that idea of doing something to mix it up, doing something to shake up the routine, get out of the box prison you're putting yourself in.
You just kind of got me excited by this idea. So I think what would be terrific, wouldn't it be terrific if some of the people listening to you today said, look, I'm going to go knock on the door of someone who is not as agile, old because of either age or physical conditioning, and I'm going to take my walk with them. Let's all go together. If it's cool outside, I'm going to drive my neighbor, the little lady or the old guy living in the apartment above. I'm going to drive them to the mall. And together, we're going to walk the mall. I'll get my exercise in. And along the way, we'll have the conversation and we'll share and we'll get to know each other. And I'll teach them and they'll teach me. And together we're sharing. I think that's really what ultimately this is about. And it's so easy to do. It's so simple to do. You can decide in terms of the kinds of things that the exercises that are mentioned with specificity in Ilchi's book. You can decide to just push the coffee table off to the side in your apartment and bring yourself and somebody that you decided to partner with into that environment and work out right there on the living room floor and do all the things you need to do to keep yourself healthy and to do things for your soul and for your mind and bringing all three together in an exciting and lovely way. The variations and the permutations of this are infinite, but it all starts with the simple intent. And that simple intent comes back to where I began, when we started our conversation. Something is moving in the air. I don't think any of us in our society today could possibly be thinking that this is the way life was meant to be lived. We cannot be happy with this kind of discord, polarization, tribalization, fractionization, irritableness, angry, foaming at the mouth. I don't think any of us say, this is the way I want life to live. No. So I think as a reaction, we can either be further negative, further angry, or we can decide to say, I feel something breeze. I feel a different breeze. I'm open to and sensitive to it. And something is moving through our society. And I want to be a part of that. So connecting in with others who want a different life, who see a different way of being, and then deciding we will come together and we'll support each other and we'll do the things necessary to preserve our spiritual health, our mental health, and our physical health.
Yeah, beautifully said. And it's like, if you're judging, judgments are a confession of character. And if you're judging a book by its cover, or this person's from this country, or they're this race, or this political view, it's like, everyone is acting rational based off their view of the world. And if you can just approach it with a sense of open-heartedness, setting that intention for how you live your life, the rewards will just continue. I am so confident the rewards will just continue to ripple out from that intention of I'm gonna put my armor down. I'm gonna stop fighting the fight. Maybe it's true what what you resist persists. Maybe that is indeed true. And I'm just going to bring love to the situation. I'm going to step out. If, you talked about helping the neighbor. It's like, I think it was Gandhi that says, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. I mean, you can never go wrong stepping out and being the one to say, I'm going to stop the fight. I'm the one who's going to reach out and make the connection. So often people get defensive and like, I'm going to wait for them to contact me. They need to step to me. And it's like, you win when you get the opportunity to do that.
I think you're right on there. And one of the things that I think people will benefit from Ilchi's book is his concept of brain education. That at one level, as we are talking about this, many people will react positively and say, yeah, I got it. But there are also techniques that we can teach ourselves to be able to be better at it. We can train our brains to be able to focus on positive as opposed to negative. We can brains more effectively through simple exercises that will allow us to be able to unleash more of that power. And so this whole idea of brain education, which is a little different than educating with information, as much as what this becomes is kind of an education as to how to allow your brain to function better, to be able to get to that quiet space, to get to the space where we can, sometimes in some spiritual disciplines, they talk about listening to that still, quiet voice inside. And sometimes it's very difficult to get rid of all the noise and the confusion and the chaos and the craziness and be able to sit quietly and get to listen to that still, small voice inside. And so Ilchi talks about ways in which he can, assist you in getting rid of the noise, calming the brain down enough so that the real you comes through, the you that's the eternal you, the quiet you inside of the spaceship. How do we get that voice out and be able to hear it? And sometimes it's more than just intention. You can want to do it, but how do you do it? And this is one of the practical kinds of information in Ilchi's book that I think many people will benefit from as they try to go from excitement and enthusiasm about the conversation to how do I actually get there in real life?
Yeah. It's all about rewiring those neural networks. And we know that that's how the brain works. And so it's why I do this show 5 days a week. I always say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. It's one thing to understand this stuff theoretically, and it's another to really embody it. And so for me, I set out as this is my way of doing it. I'm so grateful other people are benefiting and enjoying, but it's, first and foremost doing it to set my own vibrational tone each day. And so I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I'm definitely excited to check out some of those techniques that are discussed further in the book. And I'm sure many listeners will. I'd like to, as we sort of wind down here, one other sort of path I'd like to go down with you is a little bit regarding the health and food aspect of all this, because this is a big conversation in our world these days, and there's so many different things that are coming at you as what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. And, you go back to the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates said, make food thy medicine and medicine thy food. I feel like that's coming back around now. Instead of treating, issues, we're getting to the core and preventative kind of approach. And then so, for me, as I mentioned earlier, I've aligned with Purium. And if for anyone who's interested, of course, can go to positivehead.com/transformation. And it goes into great detail of all the things that I'm doing. I won't go there now. But, aside from not only putting superfoods into your system, something that's really been calling to me, and I'm curious if you have had any experience with this, is, this idea of fasting. Rumi said fasting is the first principle of medicine. Fast and see the strength of the spirit reveal itself. And I've been seeing all these things, even in the last, my brother just sent me an article a few hours ago, synchronistically, is fasting the fountain of youth. And it's talking about this USC study where they just saw after 72 hours of fasting, you clean up all the defunct white blood cells, and, it's a complete reset for your immune system. So I'm curious on on this end of things, food and fasting, what your thoughts are.
Well, first, I'm just really, excited for you and your journey, you and your sponsor, and the kinds of advances that you are benefiting from and sharing with others. And I think this is really, really important. And I commend you and your sponsor for what you are trying to do. I would probably say that in terms of the at least from where I'm sitting, because I really am looking at the health of this nation and looking at so many people who are at so many different levels. I have to sort of, in many ways, remind people, at least at the beginning, stick to the basics. We, first of all, in America, eat too much.
Yep.
So let's just remember one thing. Let's deal with these portion control. Number two, we eat too much of the wrong stuff. We eat, and we know it. We know we're eating too much junk food. We know we're eating too much sugar. We know we're eating too much carbohydrate. We know the bad things. We're taking too much alcohol. We know too many people are still smoking tobacco. So we know there are a lot of people that are doing the wrong thing. And so we've got to say to us, at least stop doing the dumb stuff that we know we shouldn't do. Let's decide to live 120 years. Then third, we know we should start eating at least the basics. We know there should be fruits and grains. We know that we need to be eating things with fruits and vegetables, lots of color, with different colors to them.
Yep.
We know that that ought to be like. Anybody can go to the U.S. government's website and just say what does a healthy food plate look like and the proportions. Those are very basic and simple, so that I don't want people to become confused.
Yeah.
The average person out there, don't get confused by all the complexities of it. Start simply. Then once we've gotten into eating the right things and not eating the wrong things and are making that part of, and by the way, one of the things that Ilchi really talks about, make sure we chew the food we eat. We just wolf this stuff down and don't get the nutritional content for it. So we should be taking our time and chewing our food not only for the nutritional content, but chewing it also because we should be approaching eating as part of our spiritual growth.
Like walking gently on the earth, right? Same kind of thing.
We're the same thing. This food comes from a place. It doesn't just magically appear. It comes from a place, and it is our interconnectivity with all of life and the sharing back and forth that we do with the environment that does. So those are the things and then for those who become more advanced, after we've done the basic things and disciplined ourselves to do right, then we can start doing the homework and the exploration about the superfoods and the things that are perhaps more advanced, which you are going to be taking care of. So I will use my time with your audience to just say, look, keep it simple.
Yeah,
do the simple things first.
Love it.
Thank God we have Brandon to start to talk in days to come with the more advanced thing.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's so many things get complex, and simple exercise, simple, and at the end of the day, whether I'm giving my 5.5 cents on what I like to do and what I recommend, or someone else's, it's like at the end of the day, I think it all comes back. We all have our own inner guidance system too, and I think these things that you're touching on are really, really important. It's like you don't need to overthink this stuff. If you check in with your own inner guidance system, that eating fruits and vegetables with lots of color is, you get a big energetic yes from your intuition, right? So go with that and keep it simple. I mean, this idea of fasting, I haven't done it, but I intend to, and I'm very intrigued by it because it doesn't get much simpler than occasionally not eating to see, to achieve health benefits. That keeps it real simple, right?
It does. But I think also, Brandon, I have fasted a lot in my life.
Have you? That was what I was curious about.
Yes, I have. And I've gotten great benefit from it. But having said that, again, there are a number of people out there who'll be listening to you who do not eat well, do not eat properly. What we don't want to have people doing is not getting the nutrients they need for their bodies to be strong so that they can exercise and do all the other things we're talking about.
Right.
So the fasting, I think, is very important, but you can't deal with the fasting if you're not dealing with the foundation
right.
of normalcy. Well, I know we're about to close out. Let me just say, though, I think that what you really have kind of got me, I want to just sort of go back before we end, and that's to your elevator challenge at the beginning. And that's really, I think, a beautiful analogy. I really love it. I hadn't thought of it before until you said it. But I just want to sort of remember that as we get on the elevator, the first thing we have to decide is to get on the elevator. That is a profound decision.
Yes.
And what Ilchi is saying is, I have what? Decided to live 120 years. I have made a decision. I am making a choice, a conscious, deliberate choice that today I'm going to get on the elevator. And then the next step on getting on that elevator is keep it simple. That's what you were just saying. Right?
Yep.
Is keep it simple. Let's don't make this so complicated that before I can do one push-up, I have to decide to do 100 push-ups. No. Do one.
Yep.
Before I do that first sit-up, I have to have a special uniform or a gym membership. No, just go on the floor and do one push-up. If that's all you can do one. The next day, you'll do 2. So keep it simple. The third is to take the opportunity to notice, which is what you just said again, Brandon. You were spot on as far as I'm concerned, is that you notice that when you make the decision, and when you do the things that make sense, your body reacts and you feel good. You get a sense of joy, a sense of, I like myself better today because I did that one push-up. I did that one sit-up. I made the decision and I acted on it. So now what you're saying and you're realizing is that as you're ascending up, is you have this sense of joy and you're now bringing together your life. And then the next stage, you start to translate that joy into your enthusiasm of your relationship spiritually, however you manifest that and whatever that means to you. And everybody will have their own way of approaching it. And no one should dictate to anybody how they express that. And so you begin now to have that coming together of your mental, your physical, and your spiritual. And eventually, as you keep doing it and you deliberately are at it every hour, you do your 1-minute exercise, you do your meditation or your prayer in the morning. Eventually, you start to ascend. And eventually, you'll get to the top level, whatever that is. And I just cannot wait to see who you will see when you get to the end.
I have a feeling I will see you standing there. Reed, this has been absolutely amazing. I believe it was Lao Tzu that said a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And thank you so much for going down this journey, taking this step with me, with the listeners. Okay, Reed, what would be for those who are wanting to continue to follow you and your inspirational work and Ilchi Lee's work, what is the best way for people to connect?
For Ilchi Lee, I would go to changeyourenergy.com. All one word, changeyourenergy.com. For some of what I'm involved in, which is across the spectrum of healthcare, it would be, you can go to Dr. Reed, DrReed, at TucksonHealthConnections.com. That's TuckSon, Tucson Health Connections with an S.com. So Dr. Reed at TucksonHealthConnections.com. And for Ilchi Lee, ChangeYourEnergy.com.
Excellent. And of course, you can order Ilchi's book, I've Decided to Live 120 Years, I'm sure, on the site, or I'm assuming
and also
maybe
Amazon,
other places like Amazon.
Any place else. Right.
Excellent. I do have one last question I'd like to leave you with. And that question is this. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life, according to Reed Tuckson?
For me, and I'm still very primitive, but I would say the meaning of life is to be a piece of consciousness that is connected to the universal consciousness. The meaning of life is for me to be aware of this incredible thing called life being aware of this actually incredible experience that the Creator has given to me, and to be grateful for it and to learn from everything as I continue to evolve into a closer, intimate, personal experience with the Creator of all created life.
And you exude another attribute of someone who is definitely doing that. Wonderful humility. Thank you, Reed, so much for taking the time to do this. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, my friend, and I appreciated it much.
Till next time, journey well.
Okay. Bye-bye, Brandon. Thank you.
Well, everyone, that concludes this week's interview episode. If you have enjoyed this positive download from our hearts and minds to yours, please take a minute, give us a rating or review on iTunes. Since iTunes is the holy grail of all things podcasting, your good reviews help us to reach more listeners. Also, we would be extremely appreciative if you would tell your friends and family about the show. Our sincere intent with the Positive Head podcast is to spread positivity to the world. Because we're selfish, quite honestly. I say that jokingly, but really only halfway joking. I'm referring to the good kind of selfish based on the knowing that we all get what we give in this life, because when we give, we're actually always giving to extensions of self, since we're all really one in the same consciousness, just in different bodies. So if you want to be a good selfish along with us by helping to spread the positivity, by all means, please proceed to shout about the Positive Head podcast from your rooftop. Otherwise, as you continue on your fabulous journey in this 3D reality, be sure to remember this. As long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Journey well, everyone, and thank you for being.